Nara Jolan gazed out the viewport of the research station orbiting Kepler 16 billion, watching the massive gas giant and its binary stars dominate the alien sky. She had left Earth 14 years ago to join the most ambitious scientific endeavor in history, studying the first known planet orbiting a double star. After over a decade of diligent research, her team was on the verge of an astonishing breakthrough in faster-than-light travel that could open up the stars to humanity. By harnessing energy from Kepler 16 billion's unique gravitational dynamics, they had discovered a theoretical way to generate and traverse transversable wormholes tunnels through spacetime itself. Nara's thoughts were interrupted by a voice crackling through her comlink. "Hey Doc, you better get down here. We've got a situation with the particle accelerator." It was Jace, her chief engineer, and brilliant scientist but reckless at times. She hoped this situation was nothing serious. Nara hurried to the accelerator chamber several levels below, an uneasy feeling growing in her stomach. When she arrived, klaxons were blaring, and the room pulsed with crimson alert lights. "Jace, what the hell is going on?" Nara demanded. Jace looked up from a control panel, his face pale. "I was trying a new resonance frequency for the exotic matter beam, and there was a power surge." "I don't." A deep rumble suddenly shuddered through the station, nearly knocking them off their feet. Equipment crashed to the floor, sparks showered from overloading circuitry. "Shut it down," Nara yelled over the cacophony. "Shut everything down now." Jace's hands flew across the controls. With a descending whine, the accelerator spun down and the chaos subsided. Acrid smoke hung thick in the air. Nara grabbed a fire extinguisher and hosed down some smoldering wires. "Just what the hell were you thinking, Jace? You could have destroyed the whole station." Jace held up his hands defensively. "I'm sorry, okay? But we needed more power to the beam to get the wormhole to manifest. The numbers were right. I triple-checked them." Nara rubbed her eyes wearily. "We'll discuss your insubordination later. Right now we need to assess the damage and..." Doc, Jace interrupted, staring at a wall monitor. "Did we schedule any incoming ships today?" Frowning, Nara looked where he was pointing. The long-range sensors showed a small, unidentified craft approaching the station. Fast. "That's ... not possible," Nara whispered. The research station was in interstellar space, over a light year from the nearest inhabited system. No ship could reach them so quickly, unless... Realization jolted through her like an electric shock. Somehow, Jace's reckless experiment must have activated the wormhole drive, and now someone or something had detected it and come to investigate. As she watched, the enigmatic vessel rapidly decelerated into orbit, uncomfortably close to the station. It was a sleek ovoid bristling with unknown technology. Nara's heart began to pound. A chime sounded, indicating an incoming transmission on all frequencies. With a trembling hand, Nara opened the comm channel. "Greetings," said a melodic synthesized voice. "I am the emissary of the galactic confluence. Your civilization has achieved a significant milestone in your development. By activating a wormhole drive, you have drawn our attention. We come bearing an invitation and a warning." Nara turned to Jace, shock and excitement warring on his face. The same emotions thundered through her own mind. First contact, the beginning of a new era for humanity. And yet ... a warning. She licked dry lips and replied, "This is Dr. Nara Jolan of Research Station Kepler 16. We are honored to meet you. What is this invitation and warning you speak of?" "Your species stands at a crossroads," the emissary declared. "The ability to pierce the veil of space-time is a great power and a grave danger if misused. Many young races have destroyed themselves by recklessly destabilizing the fabric of the universe." An ominous pause. "Therefore, you have a choice. Join the confluence, share your knowledge, and be guided in the responsible use of this power. Or, continue alone down this perilous path and face the consequences. The confluence will not allow the stability of the cosmos to be threatened, even by the most well-intentioned of species." A shiver raced down Nara's spine at the implications. Give up their autonomy and hard-won scientific secrets to this unknown galactic power? Or risk some form of sanction, even destruction? She glanced at Jace, saw her own shocked comprehension mirrored in his eyes. In unlocking the wormhole drive, it seemed they had opened Pandora's box. The fate of the human race could well hang on their next move. Nara sent a silent prayer winging to the uncaring stars. Then she took a deep breath, met the emissary's unreadable gaze through the view screen. The weight of her next words settled heavily on her shoulders. I will need to confer with my superiors on Earth, but I believe I speak for all humanity when I say ... UE graciously accept your invitation. We are ready to join the galactic community. Invisible tides of history shifted in that moment. The universe had become a much vaster, more dangerous, and more wondrous place. The future was uncharted space rife with both peril and potential, and Earth's first outpost among the stars would lead the way into that great unknown. Nara paced nervously in her quarters, waiting for a response from Earth. She had transmitted a heavily encrypted burst containing first contact logs and the emissary's message. Now, all she could do was wait while the greatest minds and leaders of humanity grappled with this paradigm-shattering revelation. A soft chime sounded, jolting her from anxious reverie. "Doc, you need to see this," came Jace's tense voice. Nara hurried to the command deck. On the main view screen, a flurry of new contacts crowded the display. Ships of all sizes and configurations were emerging from wormhole-like rifts, their sleek shapes hinting at technology far beyond human ken. "It's a parade," Jace said in hushed awe. "Or maybe a show of force." The emissary's vessel approached, eclipsed now by dagger-shaped battleships bristling with weapons. Formations of smaller ships buzzed between the looming capital ships like clouds of glittering insects. A hailing signal chimed. The emissary appeared on screen, its features still hidden behind a featureless ovoid helmet. "Doctor Jolan, your superiors are wise to accept our offer," it said, that eerie melodic voice filling the command deck. "Even now, your transmission is being broadcast across human space, heralding this new era of knowledge and cooperation. Soon your species' leaders will voyage here to formalize Earth's succession to the confluence." Nara nodded, not trusting herself to speak past the lump in her throat. She felt the weight of destiny pressing on her like a physical force. "In the meantime," the emissary continued, "we shall begin integrating your station into the confluence's infrastructure. Our engineers will upgrade your power, computing, and life support systems. I will serve as your liaison during this transition." With that, the screen went blank, showing only the glittering armada hanging in space. Nara turned to Jace, saw the same wild surmise in his eyes that she felt churning in her own mind. In the days that followed, a whirlwind of activity consumed the station. Strange technologies were installed by the Confluence's enigmatic engineers. The research labs were upgraded with computing power orders of magnitude beyond anything conceived on Earth. And through it all, the emissary was a constant presence, guiding and advising. It was a fount of history and science, seemingly eager to share the wisdom of the cosmos with its newest initiates. Nara spent long hours conversing with the alien mind, marveling at the tapestry of galactic civilizations it described. But doubts gnawed at the back of her mind. The emissary deflected certain questions about the nature and origins of the confluence, and the technologies it installed were black boxes, their principles of operation utterly opaque to human science. Nara confided her misgivings to Jace one cycle, as they stood watching ships flit past the viewport. "Don't you think this is all happening a bit ... fast," she murmured. "I feel like we're being absorbed, not allied with." Jace shrugged. "We're the junior partner here, that's for damn sure. But what choice do we have? We're infants compared to the confluence. This is the only way we can catch up, be a part of something greater." As Earth's dignitaries began to arrive for the formal accession ceremony, Nara couldn't shake the sense of unease coiling in her gut. She threw herself into preparing for the momentous event, pushing doubts aside. But on the eve of the ceremony, everything changed. Nara was abruptly summoned to the emissary's quarters. Heart pounding, she signaled at the door, which Iris opened with a soft hiss. Inside, the emissary stood amid a nest of cables and blinking interfaces. It regarded Nara with that blank, unreadable faceplate. "Doctor Jolan," it said without preamble. "A situation has developed. I'm afraid your role in shaping Earth's future has become far more pivotal than you realize." A sinking feeling pulled at Nara's stomach. The emissary gestured to a holo display, which bloomed to life with a dizzying schematic of interlocking energy fields and warped space-time geometries. "This is the power source we've installed on your station," the emissary said. "What your physics would call a zero-point energy tap, but on a scale you can scarcely imagine. With it, your station has become one of the most strategically valuable locations in this sector of the galaxy." A cold knot of dread formed in Nara's chest. "I don't understand." Valuable to whom? For what? The emissary steepled its fingers. Let me be candid, Doctor. Jolan, the confluence is not the only power in the cosmos. We are locked in a cold war with an ancient enemy, a machine civilization that seeks to assimilate all organic life. This enemy covets the energy source we've placed here. And your wormhole research. Nara reeled, blood draining from her face. You've made us a target, a linchpin, the emissary corrected. In the coming conflict, this station will be the key to humanity's survival or its destruction. That is why I brought you here, Dr. Jolan. You must ensure that when the enemy comes, and they will come, humanity makes the right choice. The emissary leaned forward, its blank faceplate filling Nara's field of view. She felt the weight of worlds hovering in the balance. The vortex imperative has begun, Dr. Jolan. The future of your species rests on your shoulders. Will you rise to this gravest of challenges? Will you lead humanity to its destiny among the stars? Nara stood paralyzed, reeling under the implications. In unlocking the secret of wormholes, it seemed she had set humanity on a path fraught with dangers she could never have conceived. The emissary watched her expectantly, that blank faceplate betraying nothing. Nara squared her shoulders, met that inscrutable gaze. She drew in a shaky breath, knowing her next words would echo down the corridors of history. I will do whatever is necessary to protect Earth, she said, her voice hardening with resolve. This I vow. Humanity will face the coming storm as one, and we will prevail. The emissary inclined its head. Well spoken, Dr. Jolan. The confluence will stand with you. Together we will brave the oncoming night. Nara nodded. Even as an icy finger of premonition traced her spine, she had the distinct feeling she had just committed the human race to a hidden galactic war in which it was hopelessly outmatched. A war in which her remote research station had just become the front line. Nara stood on the observation deck, her gaze lost in the infinite depths of space. The accession ceremony had concluded hours ago, the visiting dignitaries returning through the wormhole to Earth, buoyed by the heady promise of a new age. Only Nara knew the darker truth that lurked beneath the triumphant fanfare. The emissary's revelations weighed on her, like a leaden shroud. Soft footsteps sounded behind her. Nara turned to see Jace, his normally exuberant features pinched with concern. Hey Doc, you kind of disappeared after your speech. Everything okay? Nara forced a brittle smile. Just ... overwhelmed. It's not every day you fundamentally alter the trajectory of human civilization. Jace snorted. Yeah, I guess formalizing our membership in a galactic club ranks up there. But why do I get the feeling that's not all that's eating you? Nara hesitated, the emissary's warning echoing in her mind. Could she burden Jace with the knowledge of the looming threat? The clandestine war into which she had unwittingly enlisted them. She opened her mouth, the truth burning on her tongue. But before she could give it voice, claxons shattered the contemplative air. Alert, a dispassionate computer voice intoned. Unknown vessels detected on approach vector. Configuration does not match confluence signatures. Jace shot Nara a sharp look. I thought all the delegates left. Were we expecting anyone else? Dread nodded Nara's gut as she sprinted for the command deck, Jace on her heels. She had a sickening feeling she knew exactly what this heralded. The emissary was already there when they arrived, its blank faceplate reflecting the pandemonium of flashing alerts and scurrying station crew. It turned to regard Nara, a grim tension in its stance. It seems our enemy has made their move sooner than anticipated, it said, that melodic voice fraying with strain. The myriad swarm has found us. On the view screen, a roiling wall of darkness blotted out the stars, sweeping toward the station with inexorable purpose. As it neared, Nara discerned structure and amassed countless biomechanical craft, pulsing with malevolent energy. Their configurations were chaotic, asymmetric, hinting at origins far beyond the tidy precepts of human engineering. Sweet Mother of God, Jace breathed. What the hell are those things? The myriad, the emissary said grimly. An ageless machine swarm, consuming all in its path. We had hoped your species' entry into the confluence would go unnoticed by their scouts. It seems we underestimated their vigilance. The deck shuddered as the first jagged craft streaked past, raking the station's shields with searing energy beams. Damage reports cascaded across the command displays. They're not attacking the power core or wormhole drive, Jace observed, his voice tight with coiled tension. It's like they're trying to disable us, not destroy us. The emissary's head snapped toward him. They mean to capture this station intact. To claim the zero-point tap and wormhole technology for their own. It swiveled to face Nara. Dr. Jolan, there is one chance and one alone, for us to deny them that prize. With swift, purposeful strides, the emissary crossed to the master control console. Its fingers flew across the display, conjuring a schematic of the station's power core and the pulsing knot of space-time that was the containment field. The zero-point tap, Nara whispered, realization dawning with dreadful clarity. You mean to detonate it, to destroy the station, and the wormhole with it, the emissary confirmed. We cannot allow the Myriad to claim this technology. The cost to the galaxy would be incalculable. Another violent tremor rocked the deck, throwing Nara against a bulkhead. Jace lunged for the ops console, his face a mask of desperate focus. Shields down to 20%, he reported, shards of fear lacing his voice. Doc, whatever we're gonna do, we gotta do it now. Nara looked to the emissary, the weight of the moment yawning beneath her. To destroy the station, the work to which she had dedicated her life, along with the priceless knowledge it represented. But then to allow that knowledge to fall into the hands of this all-consuming machine swarm, to see it turned against the galaxy. The emissary regarded her, inscrutable, awaiting her decision. Nara drew a deep breath, steeling herself against the crushing gravity of her choice. Do it, she said, her voice leaden with grim resolve. Overload the containment field. Consign the wormhole to oblivion. The emissary dipped its head in sorrowful acknowledgement. With deft, swift motions, it keyed in the self-destruct sequence. The main reactor surged, the power reading spiking into the red. Attention all hands, Nara roared into the ship-wide comm. Abandon station. Get to the escape pods. This is not a drill. Confusion and fearful acknowledgements crackled back over the comm as the crew scrambled to comply. Nara turned to Jace, apology and regret etched into her features. Jace, I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you, but the emissary said, it's okay. Doc, Jace cut her off, his jaw tight. I get it. We do what we gotta do. He looked to the roiling Myriad swarm on the view screen. I just hope this works. The computer's serene voice cut across the cacophony. Reactor containment field failure in T-minus 60 seconds. Nara looked to the emissary. What now? Now, the alien replied. We run. They pelted through the shuddering, disintegrating corridors of the station, the groans of rending metal, and the shrieks of overloading power conduits dogging their steps. The last functional escape pod loomed ahead, its hatch yawning in desperate invitation. They dove inside, just as a massive quake sent them sprawling. Jace lunged for the launch controls, slamming his fist into the emergency release. The pod blasted free of the crumbling station, the inertial dampeners struggling to compensate. On the tiny viewport, Nara watched the station recede, fire blossoming from its ruptured hull. The Myriad swarm boiled around it, their attack momentarily forgotten as they converged on the wounded outpost with ravenous intensity. Reactor containment failure in 3.2.1. A second sun ignited in the void. A searing wave of light and radiation exploded outward as the zero-point tap unraveled, the unimaginable energies it had contained spilling forth in a cataclysmic flood. The Myriad craft vanished, instantly atomized by the unbridled fury of naked spacetime. The station itself shattered, instantly vaporized, as the wormhole it had harbored collapsed in on itself with a silent roar that Nara swore she could feel in her bones. And then it was over. An expanding cloud of incandescent plasma was all that remained to mark the grave of Research Station Kepler 16 and the marvel of science it had pioneered. In the sudden, ringing silence of the escape pod, Nara slumped back in her acceleration chair, boneless with relief and exhaustion. Jace reached over to grip her hand, his fingers trembling with spent adrenaline. We did it, he breathed. We actually did it. The emissary regarded them both, something like respect kindling in its voice. You have demonstrated a courage and resolve few species can claim, Dr. Jolan. The Confluence will not soon forget the sacrifice you made this day. Nara shut her eyes, sudden tears burning against her lids. The station had been her life's work, her home. And now it was gone, consigned to oblivion in the opening salvo of a war she had never sought. But even as grief squeezed her heart, a steely determination crystallized in its wake. She had sworn to stand between humanity and the dangers looming in the galactic night. And by God, she meant to see that vow through, whatever challenges the cosmos saw fit to hurl her way. She opened her eyes, meeting the emissary's inscrutable gaze. "This isn't over, is it?" she asked softly. "The myriad will come again." The emissary dipped its head in solemn acknowledgement. "Your species has drawn the attention of powers beyond your reckoning, Dr. Jolan. The myriad and others. The war for your future has only just begun." Nara nodded grimly, a leaden weight settling in her gut. She turned to gaze out the viewport, watching the fading embers of the station's pyre scatter against the stars. Somehow, she knew, those same cold stars would bear witness to many more conflagrations before this war ran its course. And she, Nara Jolan, would stand at the heart of the firestorm. The survival of her species, perhaps of all galactic civilization, would hinge on her choices in the battles to come. It was a burden she had never sought, but one she found she could not refuse. For she had glimpsed the stakes in this great game, and she knew with a diamond-hard certainty that she would see it through to the bitter end, no matter the cost. The escape pod drifted through the silent void, the wreckage of the research station receding behind it. Nara stared numbly at the dwindling field of debris, her mind reeling with the enormity of what had transpired. In the space of a few short hours, her world had been upended. The bright promise of first contact had given way to the grim specter of war on a scale she could scarcely comprehend. And she, Nara Jolan, found herself at the fulcrum of that conflict. The emissary's words echoed in her mind. The choices she made in the coming days would ripple across the fate of worlds. A soft chime from the pod's comm panel shook her from her bleak reverie. She glanced to Jace, who was already moving to answer the hail. "It's a transmission from the Confluence ship," he reported, his voice tight. "They're sending coordinates for a rendezvous point." Nara nodded, steeling herself. Acknowledged the transmission, set course for the coordinates. As Jace bent to his task, Nara turned to the emissary. "What happens now?" she asked, hating the tremor in her voice. "Where do we go from here?" The emissary regarded her, its blank faceplate inscrutable. "Now, Dr. Jolan, you must take up the mantle of your destiny. The Confluence will look to you for leadership in the dark days ahead." Nara shook her head, a mirthless laugh bubbling up her throat. "Leadership? I'm a scientist, not a soldier. What do I know of war?" "You know sacrifice," the emissary replied softly. "You know the burden of impossible choices. In the face of annihilation, you chose to destroy that which you held most dear for the sake of all. That is the essence of leadership." Nara looked away, blinking back sudden tears. The memory of the station's final moments burned behind her eyes, the look of grim resolve on Jace's face, the resigned determination in the emissary's voice. They had all made that choice, and they would all bear the weight of it. The pod shuddered as it slipped into the docking bay of the massive Confluence ship. Nara rose on unsteady legs, squaring her shoulders as the hatch hissed open. She stepped out into a cavernous hangar, rank upon rank of sleek, deadly ships stretching into the distance. Crews of all species hurried to and fro, the air electric with purposeful energy. A tall, regal figure strode forward to greet them. It was clad in shimmering robes, an aura of command hanging about it like a cloak. "Dr. Jolan," it said, bowing deeply. "I am Admiral Zarn of the Confluence Fleet. Your courage and sacrifice are known to us. The Confluence is honored to fight alongside you in the battle to come." Nara returned the bow, surprise and trepidation warring within her. "The honor is mine, Admiral, but I fear you overestimate my importance. I am but one woman, thrust into events beyond my understanding." Admiral Zarn's eyes glinted with a knowing light. "Are we not all, Dr. Jolan? Thrust into the tides of destiny, to sink or swim as fate decrees," it gestured expansively to the bustling hangar. "This is the great endeavor of the Confluence, disparate souls from 1,000 worlds, joining as one to hold back the night. And in this fevered hour, we turn to you to light the way." Nara swallowed hard, the weight of that trust settling on her shoulders like a leaden mantle. She thought of Earth, her homeworld, blissfully ignorant of the apocalyptic conflict that had just ignited across the stars. She thought of the Myriad, that inscrutable machine swarm bent on eradicating all organic life. Of the wormhole technology she had pioneered, now the fulcrum on which the fate of galaxies would turn. And she knew, with a heavy certainty, that she could not turn away from this path. For better or worse, the Vortex Imperative had chosen her, and she would see it through, even unto the gates of oblivion. She met Admiral Zarn's gaze, a newfound resolve hardening her spine. "I am ready, Admiral. What must I do?" The Admiral smiled, a fierce, feral baring of teeth. "You will take command of a task force, Dr. Jolan. A fleet of the Confluence's finest sworn to your banner. You will be our tip of the spear, striking at the heart of the Myriad's operations in this sector." Nara nodded grimly, her mind already racing with the permutations of strategy and tactics. "And the wormhole technology? The zero-point power source. Those secrets died with your station. And for that we are grateful," Admiral Zarn said. "But the principles behind them live on, in your mind and the minds of your crew. It falls to you to keep that knowledge safe, and to wield it as a weapon against our foes." Nara glanced to Jace and the emissary, saw the same dawning realization in their eyes. They were the custodians now, the keepers of the flame. The last, best hope for a galaxy besieged. She turned back to Admiral Zarn, a grim smile tugging at her lips. "Then let us begin, Admiral. We have a war to win." And with that, she strode forward into the waiting crucible of her destiny, her steps ringing with the resolve of a woman who would shake the very stars. The battle for the future had begun, and Nara Jolan would be its herald and its champion, come what may. For she was the Vortex Imperative, and the fate of worlds rested in her hands. The war raged across the stars, a conflagration that consumed worlds and shattered suns. At the forefront of the conflict, Nara Jolan and her task force struck at the Myriad strongholds, a shining lance of defiance against the encroaching dark. Under her brilliant leadership, the tide of battle slowly turned. The Myriad's advance faltered, then stalled, as Nara's fleet unleashed the fury of the wormhole technology against them. Zero-point energy weapons sundered their ships, while transient wormholes scattered their fleets to the cosmic winds. But the victories came at a heavy cost. Each engagement left Nara's force battered and diminished, the toll in lives and material mounting with each passing day. And ever the Myriad came on, an inexorable tide of hungry metal, adapting and evolving to counter her every stratagem. Through it all, Jace and the emissary stood at Nara's side, her constant companions and advisors. Together they formed the triumvirate at the heart of the resistance: the scientist, the engineer, and the enigmatic alien, united in their resolve to see the galaxy through its darkest hour. But as the war ground on, Nara began to discern a disturbing pattern in the Myriad's movements. Their fleets were not simply attacking targets of opportunity, they were searching for something, scouring the galaxy with single-minded intent. With growing dread, Nara came to suspect the truth. The Myriad sought the source of the wormhole technology, the secret at the core of her own research. They meant to claim that power for themselves, to pervert it to their own nightmarish ends. Nara knew she could not allow that to happen. The wormhole technology was too dangerous, too potent to fall into the Myriad's clutches. If they ever succeeded in replicating it, the galaxy would be doomed. And so, with a heavy heart, she set in motion a final, desperate gambit. She gathered her battered fleet for one last assault, a strike aimed at the heart of the Myriad's domain. It was a trap, of course. The Myriad had long anticipated this move, and they were waiting in overwhelming force. Nara's fleet was engulfed, ships dying in droves as the machine swarm poured fire into their ranks. But it was all part of Nara's plan. For even as her fleet burned and died around her, she was preparing a final, terrible weapon. A self-replicating wormhole virus, designed to infect the Myriad's network and tear their empire apart from within. With Jace and the emissary at her side, Nara beamed the virus into the heart of the Myriad swarm. And then, with a whispered prayer for forgiveness, she activated the zero-point device at the heart of her flagship. The resulting explosion was cataclysmic. A searing wave of energy engulfed the battling fleets, instantly vaporizing Myriad and Confluence ships alike. Nara's flagship disintegrated, a miniature sun blooming in the void where it had once been. But even as the light of that pyre faded, the wormhole virus was spreading, worming its way through the Myriad's network with malevolent efficiency. Across the galaxy, myriad ships and installations began to wink out of existence, dragged into nothingness by ravenous punctures in space-time. The Myriad, that ancient, implacable foe, had finally been laid low, but the cost had been staggering. Nara Jolan, the woman who had saved the galaxy, was gone, along with countless brave souls who had followed her unto the breach. In the aftermath of that final battle, the shattered remnants of the Confluence regrouped, struggling to rebuild in a galaxy forever altered. Jace and the emissary, the last survivors of Nara's inner circle, took up the task of shepherding the fragile peace that followed. They knew that the threat of the wormhole technology had not died with Nara. Other factions would seek that power, driven by the same avarice and fear that had motivated the Myriad. The secret of the Vortex imperative would have to be guarded now and forever. But even as they shouldered that burden, Jace and the emissary held fast to the memory of Nara Jolan, the woman who had given everything to light the way, who had ventured unto the very edge of oblivion and cast herself over, for the sake of all that lived. Her sacrifice would not be forgotten. Her name would echo through the ages, a rallying cry for all those who stood against the dark, for she had been the Vortex imperative, and in the end she had saved them all.